Okay, hello everyone. So we'll start with our today's session. I hope you guys can see my screen. All right. So first of all, brief discussion what we have done till now. So till now we have covered 3 sessions and in which we have covered the intro and then we move on to ES, maybe we can say part 1 and then on ES part 2, right? So we have covered the intro part and then we have seen the ECMAScript standards. So what all new has come in ECMAScript 6, right? And now is the time to move forward where we will talk about the TypeScript, right? So we will learn TypeScript for 2 sessions because these are the prerequisites for Angular. All right. Okay. So what is TypeScript? TypeScript, you can say, is a superset of JavaScript and which follows ES6 standards, right? And the TypeScript does not run directly on our browsers, but TypeScript will be converted into JavaScript first, all right? And then that JavaScript code will be fed to the browsers, okay? So what we will do, we will talk about some of the core concepts of TypeScript today and tomorrow. Not tomorrow, in our next session. All right. So data types, interfaces, classes, and decorators. So these are the 4 main topics at the broad level, which we will be covering in these 2 sessions. And first we'll look at data types, what all data types are present in TypeScript. Then we'll move on to interfaces and classes. So these interfaces and classes are nothing much the same as which we studied in ES6. All right, a little bit changes will be here and there. Otherwise, everything remains the same. And then will be the decorators. These decorators we will cover in our next session. All right. So first of all comes the data types. All right. So data types in TypeScript. So there are basically these data types which are present in TypeScript, which are Boolean, number, string, array, tuple, and enum. Okay. Any is like you can say it can contain anything which we have seen in ES6 as well. But at broad level, these are the 6 types of data types present in TypeScript. All right. So let's see how you declare a variable in TypeScript. Okay. So what I have done is I have created one file which is examples.ts file. All right. So it is TypeScript. So TypeScript files have the extension as .ts. Just like JavaScript has .js files, similarly TypeScript has .ts files. Okay. And to run our TypeScript code, what we will do, we will use one online compiler. Okay. So the TypeScript guys have given us this playground where we can play around with TypeScript. Okay, so you can visit this website typescriptlang.org/play. Okay, or you can just Google as well. On Google you can type TypeScript playground. Okay, so where is the very first link will take you to the TypeScript playground. All right, so this is the playground where what we will do, on the left hand side we will be writing the TypeScript code and it will be getting converted to JavaScript in the right hand side. Okay, so this is not our major concern. Our major concern is to write TypeScript code here on the left hand side. Okay, so I will be writing some code and I'll show you how to create data types in TypeScript. All right, so first of all, first data type, say Boolean. Okay, so first data type I'll tell, like, if you have to declare a variable in TypeScript, how you declare it? You declare it by writing ES6 syntax like let, right? Let and then name of the variable, right? Let's suppose temp variable, and then you write colon, all right? And in colon, what you write? You have to write the type. Okay, so basically TypeScript is a strictly typed language. Okay, unlike JavaScript, right? What you write in JavaScript? You simply write var x and you put anything inside it, right? You can write number in it, you can pass boolean in it, right? That doesn't matter the value which you are going to assign, right? It doesn't matter to TypeScript. But in TypeScript, you have to mention the type of data you are going to store in this temp variable. Okay, let's suppose you are going to store a number in this, then you have to tell that temp variable is going to be of type number, like this. Okay, so this is one thing which you will see that we will be using every time. Okay, because TypeScript is a strictly typed language, so you have to specify that what type of data you are going to store in the variables. Okay, let's suppose you want to pass a boolean value, right? Then you have to tell that I'm going to write a boolean in temp1. Okay, so pretty simple. Earlier what we were doing, we were just creating this, right? If you remove this line number 3, right, we were doing this. Now only thing what we are adding is we are adding the type. Okay, we are adding the type of variable which you are going to store in the temp1 or your variable name. Okay, now as you can see that TypeScript guys are restricting us, right? But it is very helpful as well, right? At JavaScript, code breaks at runtime, right? You do not have any pre-hand confirmation that your code will run or not unless you run it, right? So what it will do, it will, when you ask the user to tell that it is definitely going to be a boolean, right, then it will not allow you to enter something else, right? Let's suppose you want to enter 10. Okay, you can see here what is here, it is given a red underline, right? And it is giving error type number is not assignable to type boolean, right? Because 10 is not a boolean, but you are telling that my variable is going to be of type boolean. Okay, so all this stuff you are basically for your type safety. All right, so if you run this, or if you just put this code to the our TypeScript playground, then you will be able to see that it is getting converted to JavaScript as well. On the right hand side, you can see it is getting converted to JavaScript. You have written let temp colon number equals 10, right? What it get converted to? It get converted to plain JavaScript where temp equals 10. Similarly, temp1 as boolean, and here also it is temp1 true. Okay, so these are number and boolean. Now let's talk about other data types, which is string. Right, string is also pretty straightforward. If you create temp2, you just have to mention that I'm going to create a string, and then you have to pass a string in this, like hello world, like this. Okay, so it's nothing a big thing in this, but you are doing the type safety. Okay, coming to next, any you already know what is the meaning of any. Any means which we used to have in JavaScript, right? You can enter anything, you can pass any kind of variable to the property which you have created. Okay, okay, so you want to know, I got a question in ping that if we create a something like where x equals 10, right? So it will work because it is not any other thing other than JavaScript, right? But it is on top of that only. And you can see internally this this TypeScript is getting converted to JavaScript only. Okay, so if you write a JavaScript code here as well, it will work. Okay, but I will not say that this is TypeScript then. Okay, as I told in ECMAScript as well, that you can create a variable by writing where as well. All right, and case sensitiveness means let's suppose I create a where x equals to 10, right? Now I create a capital X equals to 10. Okay, so you can see it is allowing us to create both, because lowercase x and capital case X both are different. So that is the meaning of case sensitiveness. All right, so let me remove this. Okay, and you are telling if I can mention something like this. Okay, let's try a number. Okay, yeah, so it's working. Okay, yeah, so that is string. Any you already know. Next, coming to array. So how you create an array here? Let's suppose I create a students array, right? And then how you tell its type, right? First way how you can type is like this: number. Okay, 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, so you have already told that students is going to be of type number, right? And it is taking perfectly fine, right? Or second way how you assign an array, by maybe I say employees, right? And it is going to be of type array, right? Second type is you assign like this. Okay, so first one may be Rahul and second one may be Raj, like this. Okay, so this is called as generics. This is called as generics, right? Sorry, this one. So what you are doing here, you are telling that it is going to be of type array and whose data type will be containing the strings. Okay, so that means when you will be creating this, it will be creating the array of string. Okay, so these are two types by which you can create a array like this, by passing a array sign, that means bracket, square bracket, and passing the data type, or by writing a generics array and then this angular bracket and passing name of the type of the content which you are going to create. Okay, so what it helps you in checking the code at the compile time only. Okay, so it will not allow you to do stuff which is wrong. Okay, so if you try to do something here, maybe you want to add something, a string. Okay, so it will give you an error, right? You can see it says number cannot be arrays of type number, but you are trying to assign a string, right? So string is not assignable. Okay, so using TypeScript, you are basically very safe while coding. Okay, so this is a array. Next, coming to, okay, I got a question that please explain any. Yeah, so what is any? Any, as you know that any is just like this, where temp equals to 10, just like JavaScript variable. Okay, so if you say let my any variable, okay, and you mention any type to it, okay, then what you get, the flexibility. Okay, now you have the flexibility that you can assign any value to this. You assign 10 to this, which is a number. You can assign a string to this, which is of type string. Okay, you can assign a boolean value to this, a boolean as well, like this. Okay, so if you use any, then you are basically losing the usage of TypeScript, or maybe you can say you are not able to utilize the concept of strict typing. Okay, so if you have a requirement where you do not know at all what type of value is going to be assigned to this variable, only then you will be using any. Okay, so let's remove this. Yes, we can assign any type of data using any. All right, next, coming to a tuple. So what is a tuple? A tuple is nothing but an array, but only thing is, using a tuple you can pre-assign, or you can tell the compiler at the initial time only that what type of different values you are going to assign at the each index. Okay, let's suppose you create a tuple, my tuple. Okay, then what you can do is you can tell that what type of values are going to be assigned inside this array. Let's suppose first value is going to be of type number, second value is going to be of type string. Okay, and then you can assign the values here. Maybe number can be 10, string can be hello, like this. Okay, so what is a tuple? A tuple is nothing but a array only. Only thing is, you can assign different types of values, and you can tell this pre-hand that what type of value is going to be assigned at in each index. Okay, let's suppose you change the type like this, you make it a true. Okay, then it will throw an error that boolean comma string is not assignable to number comma string. Okay. So you have to be very careful while writing a tuple. However, I haven't used tuple much. So even in real life, you don't see like using tuple very much. Most of the times you will be using array only. Okay. But still you should know that there is something called as tuple, using which you can tell what type of values you are going to assign at each index. Okay. All right. Next, coming to the enum. Before that, I take a question in the chat. Question is how to assign two indexes in tuple. Pratik, two indexes as in two indexes I have
Like,
just assigned.
yeah, like 10 and hello is one row. You have type of row. You have a set one set of value you have assigned. Now if I want to assign a second set, say 20 by, so how can I assign that at the same time? Like in the arrays you have assigned two values, Rahul and Raj. So in
Right.
the tuple can we assign two values?
No,
One
you
is
can assign
10.
n number of values, any number of values.
So how can I assign the second value in the same line?
It's not like a map. It is not a map. They are not binded.
Okay.
Okay, they are just a simple array only having the two
Hmm.
indexes. Simple. If you assign a third value, it will be at the third index.
So the third value will be its data type will be assigned as number or string. Which
No,
one it will be taken?
you have to tell. You have to tell here what type of.
Okay.
Let's suppose you want to assign a number, then you will be assigning a number here. Let's suppose like
Okay.
this.
It doesn't mean it's a particular row for which the first column will be number or second column will be string.
No,
It's
no,
nothing like that.
it's not a column. It's just index based.
Okay, fine. Thanks.
All right. Next, coming to enum. So, as I told that these languages are again becoming very similar to backend languages like Java and C as well, where we used to have enums, right? So, JavaScript was not having enums, but now TypeScript has come up with the concept of enums. Okay. So, how you create enums? Okay, let's create there itself. Let I say what type of value I can say. Let's suppose fruits. Okay, so it will not be let, it will be enum. All right. So enum is nothing but a set of values which you want to restrict the user to. Okay, I am creating a enum in which I will be writing a collection. Okay, so I have created a enum called as fruits. Now from these fruits, I will be writing the possible values of fruits. Okay, let's suppose I create an apple, then I create an orange. Okay, so enum is, you can say, a data structure using which you can restrict the user to assign only one of the values of this enum. Okay, so I'll give you an example. Now you have created an enum of fruits which is having two values, apple and orange. Okay, now you are creating a one variable. Let's suppose f1, which is going to be of type fruits. Okay, so what you will do, you will write fruits dot apple like this. Okay, so what will you will get assigned to f1? Okay, so you are restricting, if you are going, this variable is going to be of type fruits, then you will not be able to assign any other value to this f1. Okay, so let's suppose if I try to write 10 here. Okay, is it allowing us to do this? Or if I try to write some string, right, it is not allowing. Okay, high is not assignable to type fruits because it is not of type fruits. Okay, so where you use it, let me just complete this, fruits dot apple. Okay, so where you guys use it, let's suppose there is a type called as order. E-commerce applications, right? In e-commerce application you have a status of the order, right? Order status can be, let's suppose I create a enum where you are having order status. Okay, now order status can only be placed, let's suppose I say placed, and I say shipped, right? I say delivered or returned. Okay, now you have created an enum type of order status, right? Now any order which you are going to be created in your system, in your application, that has to be of type either of these. Okay, so order cannot have any other status. Okay, so basically you have restricted again the user. Okay, you have again restricted the user to not to write any garbage values. Okay, so then when user will be writing the status of its order, then what he has to do, he has to, let's suppose order, which is going to be of type order status, then he will be writing one of these order status dot either of these, delivered, placed, returned or shipped. Okay, so this is how you create an enum and how you assign the enum values to the any property. Okay, and by default what happens is their actual values are starts with 0. Okay, what happens is when you create an enum like this, right, and you do not initiate anything to that, right? If you do not initiate like this, so by default first entry gets a value as 0, just like the index. Okay, next entry gets automatically 1, next entry gets automatically 2, and in last it will get 3, like this. Okay, this is their actual values when you print them, 0 1 2 3 and so on. Okay, so these are, you can say, enumerated types, or you say enums. Okay, or what you can do is you can either start them with a different value. Let's suppose you start it with but 10. Okay, then next values will be correspondingly increasing like this. Okay, if you do not want to them to start with 0, then you can give an initial value to the first entry and next entries will be in the increasing order automatically. All right, so that's the enums. So these were the data types in TypeScript which are generally used. All right, next coming to functions. So what is a function? Function we have already studied in ECMAScript as well, JavaScript as well, right? Functions are from very starting, right? So how you create a function in TypeScript? You create a function in TypeScript by writing function keyword, then maybe name of the function, okay, and then its definition, right? This is pretty simple, a normal function. Even in JavaScript you write like this, right? Now what is new in TypeScript? In TypeScript what you have is you have to declare that what kind of data this function is going to return. Okay, let's suppose your function is going to return a string, right? Then you have to tell that my function is going to return a string value. Okay, uh, how we write it? Okay, like this only, but you have to then return a string value from this function like this. Okay, so you can see everywhere we are telling as much information as we can that uh, that your code should know, right? Because JavaScript was having lot of runtime errors, right? So TypeScript is making you safe. Okay, so if you try to return something else, then it will throw an error. Okay, it will not allow you to return a number, whereas you have already told that my function is going to return a string. Okay, now if you do not want to return anything from this function, then what you will do, you can write void. Okay, and then just don't return anything from the function. Okay, all right. Yeah, so one more question I have in chat is order colon this order status, right? So this colon, using colon, what we are doing till now, we were writing its type, right? So here what we have done in the top as well, we have created a variable name and then colon its type, right? At the first line as well, let temp colon number, right? Because temp is going to contain a number, so we have told colon number, right? Here employees is going to be of type array, so I have told that it is going to be an array. So using colon you basically tell the type, right? So similarly here as well, what we have done, we have written that order is going to be of type one of the order status. Okay, so after colon you write the data type. Okay, similarly in a function as well, after colon I am writing the type which is this function is going to return. Okay, so void you write where, when you do not return anything. Okay, or we have the last option which is any, right? Using any means you can either return anything or you do not want to return anything. Okay, so any is the last option. Okay, when you do not have any idea what is this function is going to do, then only you write any. Okay, so writing any is nothing but writing a JavaScript code, right? So you are following the JavaScript way of doing the stuff. Okay, but at the same time what you are doing, you are making your code unsafe. Okay, now coming to one more thing, which is the parameters, right? While writing a function, what we do, we pass some parameters as well, like this a comma b, right? What you can do is you can tell their types as well. Okay, let's suppose first parameter is going to be of type number, then you can tell by writing colon number. Second can be of type string, right? So you can write a string like this. Okay, now while calling this function, right, if you pass first argument as number, right, and second argument has to be of type string. Okay, so this is working perfectly fine. Let's suppose I pass second parameter as number. Okay, you can see it throws an error. Argument of type 2 is not assignable to parameter of type string, right? You cannot pass a number into a string. That is why it is throwing a error. Okay, so that is why you should always follow what you write. All right, so we have seen how you return one of the specific type. We have seen how you pass the specific parameters. Okay, so that's about the functions. So that's the main change in TypeScript. Okay, that you basically tell the type beforehand only. Okay, okay, I repeat the parameters. So while declaring the parameters in the function, right, first thing what you can do is you can follow the JavaScript syntax, plain syntax, right? There is nothing here, right? Function, name of the function, then just write the formal arguments. Okay, then what you do in TypeScript always says that you tell me as much information you know, please tell me beforehand. Okay, the same thing we are going to do, we are telling the information beforehand that my first parameter is going to be of type number, right? And then second parameter is going to be of type, let's suppose, string. Okay, so what it will do, TypeScript will help you while calling this function. Okay, when you will call this function, it will say, hey, you have told me that you are going to be passing a number and a string. If you do not follow that rule, then I will not allow you to run the code. Okay, so that is what happens if you change the data type of any of the parameters, then it will throw an error that you told me something else and you are doing something else. Okay, so this is how you write in the parameters. Okay, and as I told, writing any means writing any is as good as you do not write anything. Okay, so if you write any or do not write any, then it doesn't matter. Okay, but still writing any is a formal way of following a TypeScript standard. Okay, if you do not know, then you should at least tell that, okay, I am following this standard. Okay, that is why if you are not writing here like this any, then you are basically breaking the TypeScript standards. Okay, if you do not know, then at least mention any. Okay, so that your code is more readable. All right. Okay, my voice is not clear. Is it clear now? All right. Maybe fan problem. Okay. All right. Next, coming to the classes. So how you create a class in TypeScript? It's the same way you have created in ES6. Okay. So how you create a class? Let's create a class and then we'll see. Let's create a class. If you remember, we created a class vehicle, right? And this vehicle can take some parameters maybe, right? So what were they? There was a constructor, right? So you are having a constructor, and in this constructor you can pass some parameters, name, and let's suppose model. Okay, so here what you can do is you can tell the name is going to be of type string and model is going to be of type number, right? And here you will write this dot name equals name, this dot model equals model. Okay, and then what you do, you first create the name and model properties. Okay, so first way is you can just directly write like this. Okay, or what you can do is you can tell the specify their types as well, like this: name string, name colon string, and model colon number. Okay, so simply name model, right? So this is how you create a class. All right, pretty simple and straightforward, right? And there can be functions as well. Let's suppose get vehicle info, right? You can tell that it is going to return nothing. You can mention void there. All right, and inside the function you can write maybe a console statement, console.log of what, console.log of, let's follow the ES syntax, which is using the backtick, and let's say I say name is dollar curly braces, and you write this dot name. Okay, and then having model year as, you can follow again the syntax like this dot model. Okay, now let's create a object of this vehicle. I say let car1 equals new vehicle, right? And vehicle is accepting what, its constructor is accepting a string, right? So string is, let's suppose I say Honda car, and year is, let's suppose 2015, right? And then what I can do is I can call the function car1 dot get vehicle info, right? Like this. Okay, so what this function does, this function basically just what it does, it just prints something in the console. Okay, so there is a run button as well here, right? So what it will do, it will run this code on the browser. Okay, let's run this and we will open the console. So after click on run, I can see in the console that name is Honda, having model year as 2015. It is printed in the console. Okay, all right, so this is how you create a class, right? Straightforward, simple. Okay, and one more thing which you are seeing here, that before using it at line number 39, we have to first declare it, right? So that is why I have written at line number 36 that my name is going to be of type string. Okay, however in JavaScript it was not required, right? You can directly instantiate it and assign it as well, but here it will not allow you to. Okay, so TypeScript is strict here. All right, and one more thing, you are not writing let or where in front of these variables. Why? Because these properties are belonging to this class. Okay, so when you create an object like here car1 from new vehicle, right? So the car1 will be having these properties. Okay, because these properties are belonging to the class. Okay, when you create new of vehicle, then you will get these properties in that object only. Okay, however, if you create using let's suppose let x, and it is of type, let's say string, right? So what it says, you can see it says unexpected token, a constructor method accessor or property was expected, right? All right, so this thing you cannot do in the class, but these things you can do in a function like this, right? You can see I can create a local property inside a function. Okay, so this local property belongs to this function, but a class cannot contain any property like this. Okay, so that is why we haven't used let here, right? So let's remove this. Okay, now I take the question. The question is, these first two I have already answered. Okay, can we use model colon int? No, int is not present here. Okay, int is there in C, int is there in Java, but no, here we do not have int, but we do have number here. Okay, so using number you can pass anything. Okay, anything as in it can be a normal number like 10, it can be a float value 10.2. All right, so here it's not that specific. Like we have in Java, we have a float, we have a number, right? Long, all that stuff we have, right? So here we don't have anything like that, but you have a number, so it should be a number only. Okay, yeah. Kratika, you are asking why we declare variables in constructor again. We haven't declared them. Where we have declared them?
In class, we have declared already number as in a string and model as is number.
Exactly.
Yeah, so why we are declaring again in constructor?
Here we are not declaring it. These are formal parameters. You can take any name here. Probably you are getting confused between this name and this name. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so you can take anything here, maybe NM, or here you can take MDL. Okay. So these are
Okay,
local properties only. Then what you have to
okay,
do is you have to just change like this and it will work.
okay, I got it.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Now let me tell you about the inheritance. All right. So inheritance is also very similar to what we have done yesterday. Not yesterday, day before yesterday. Right. So what we have done, we have created another class, right? Maybe bike class, which extends, right? It extends vehicle class. Okay. Then what you will do, you will again call a constructor, and inside the constructor, what you will do, you will call super function to instantiate the object of parent, right? Here, what you can do, you can pass name, comma, model number, right? And this constructor can also accept some name and model. All right. So you have name and model here as well. And the child class can have its own functions as well, or it can use the functions which are already present in its parent. Okay. So let's not create another function. All right, let's create a new object from the bike. Okay, so let's suppose I create a bike called as passion equals new bike, right? And new bike accepts two parameters, which is passion, maybe model can be 2016, right? And then I can call the passion dot get vehicle info like this. Okay, so this is pretty straightforward. However, what we have done, we have exploited one thing here. We have only used the, from line number 50 to 54, we have only used the types ECMAScript. We haven't used TypeScript because we haven't mentioned the types, right? So if you tell their types, then it becomes a perfect code for being validated as a TypeScript code like this. All right. So this will work, also work very similar. Okay, and what we can have is we can have this function, rather than putting it here, I can put him here as well. Okay, and I can change it to get bike info. All right, and then I change name here as well. I just copy this function and I just pass it here. Okay, now one thing you are seeing here, that this dot name is not giving any error. Why? Because bike class is extending vehicle class, and vehicle class is already having name and model. So both of these properties, name and model, will automatically get inherited to this bike class. So that means bike class already know that name and model is having some values. That is why you are able to access them here. Okay, I can just run this code and we can see in the console, right? It is printing name and passion having model year 2016. Okay, oops, I closed that. Hope code will not go. Yeah, code is there. Okay, so this is how you do inheritance. All right, now coming to the levels of you can say the access modifiers, right? I think yesterday only somebody was asking about this, about the access modifiers, right? So there are three types of modifiers present in TypeScript. They are public, private, and protected. Okay, so by default, which we create like this, right? Name colon string, what is it? It is a public modifier. Okay, so what is the meaning of modifiers? If you guys are not from Java background or you do not know, then let me tell you that first. So whenever you create properties, properties means any these variables. Okay, name to model. Okay, these properties have the one area in which they can be accessed. Okay, so using the access modifiers, you can restrict them. Okay, you can tell that what are their access, how much they are accessible outside the world. Okay, so if you do not mention anything in front of its name, okay, while creating a variable or a property, if you do not mention anything, then by default they are public. Okay, so writing public or do not write anything means the same. Okay, they are by default public only, right? So what is the meaning of public? Public means they can be accessible anywhere. Anywhere as in any object which is going to be created from vehicle can access this property. Okay, so if you create an object of vehicle, you will be able to directly call vehicle.name. Okay, so not vehicle.name, that object.name, object of that vehicle.name. Okay, if I show you here, here if I write, can I write console statement directly? Console.log of passion.name. Okay, and then if I run this code, where is run button? Here, right? You can see passion is printed. Why? Because this name property I have mentioned as public. So once it is public, then any object which is going to be created from vehicle or any class which is going to extend this class vehicle, right? Bike also extends vehicle. Oh, and passion is a object of bike, right? So this name property via inheritance got inherited to the bike class, right? So now this bike class is also knowing this property name, right? And so this is nothing but, if I write just to make it simpler, you can say it is already having like this, something like this. Okay, now since it is public, name is public, so any object which is going to be created from bike, so you can see here we are creating a passion object from bike class. So that means passion will be able to access name. That is what happening here. Passion.name is getting printed. Okay, just because it is public, right? It is public, that is why able to do it, right? Now let's do one thing. Let's make it private. So what is the meaning of private? You can see as soon as I mentioned private here, two errors have occurred. One is here at line number 50. It says property name is private and only accessible within class vehicle. Okay, so when you create a variable or a property by writing it as a private, by mentioning its access modifier as private, it means you cannot access this variable, this name property outside this boundary, outside the class. Okay, so what happens? That becomes private to that particular class. Okay, so public means access to everyone. Private means access to nobody. Okay, so access to no one except within the class. Okay, so that means public is anywhere outside the class it can be accessed. Private means totally opposite. It can be accessed only within the class. Okay, next is private. Sorry, next is protected. So what is protected? Protected means this name property cannot be accessed from the outside world unless somebody inherits the vehicle class. Okay, so if I write down this, if I say public means accessible everywhere, then
Excuse
private,
me, sir.
yes,
Hello. Sorry to disturb you. Sir, is this access specifiers in the class? Is this whole concept similar to the other, the object-oriented concept of any other language, or is
yes,
anything
Java also follows the same concept.
it's the same?
Yes,
Sir, actually, I've got a train. I need to leave. Can you, in short, can you just give a glance of what the decorators is, if you can?
decorator, no problem. Decorator is not going to be covered today.
Oh, okay, fine.
Anyways,
Fine.
decorators are going to be covered in next session only.
Okay, thank you.
All right, yeah. You can, what you can do is you can go through the remaining tutorial after the recording is uploaded.
Sure.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Yeah. So I was telling about the access modifiers. Public means accessible everywhere. Private means accessible only inside the class, right? And protected means inside the class as well as it can be accessed by the child classes. Okay, so to use a protected modifier, you have to inherit the class. All right, so that is why what you can do is something like this. When I mention name as protected, right, it is not accessible here outside, right? When I'm writing passion.name, it is giving error that property name is protected, only accessible within class vehicle and its subclasses, right? So what is a subclass? Subclass is bike. Okay, so that is why you are able to access this sub name property in the subclass, right? Bike is a subclass of vehicle because it is extending it, right? And you can see here it is accessing it. Now if I run this, you will be able to see that information will be printed in the console. Okay, it's not printing. Why? Because we are not calling the function. So let's call the function get bike info like this, and then I will run this. I open the console. You can see it is printing name is passion. Okay, so these are three level of access modifiers in TypeScript, right? Which I have mentioned here: public, private, and protected. All right. Yeah. So we have one topic left called as generics. So before going to generics, let me tell you about the interface. Okay. So what is the interface? So this is again a concept which is already present in Java and many other languages as well, right? Now the interfaces are coming to front end as well. That means in TypeScript as well, you will be able to learn, you will be able to see the interfaces. Okay. So what is the interface? What does interface contains and how you declare an interface? So how you declare a class? By writing a class and its name and curly braces, right? Okay, we are already having this redeclaring. I say class name like this, right? This is a class, right? So how you create an interface? By writing a keyword interface, then name of the interface. Let's suppose an interface name and like this. Okay. So what a class can contain? A class can contain properties and they can have values, right? They can have function and they can have their function definitions, right? Just like vehicle, right? What is a vehicle? Vehicle is a class. It is having some properties declared as well as they are used. That means they have some values as well, right? Similarly, bike is a class which is having a function, function name, function declared, as well as it is having definitions, right? But a interface, let me write here, what a class can have. It can have declarations of properties as well as their values assigned to them, right? Or we can directly say as well as definition, right? It can contain functions and their definitions as well. Then comes interface. What it contains? It contains only declarations, no definitions. Okay. So interfaces can only have declarations. There should not be any definition in an interface. Okay. So how you create an interface? Like this, and then you can have a function. Let's suppose get info, right? Like this. This becomes an interface. Okay, it can have some properties as well. Let's suppose name, like this. Okay, it is an interface. Okay, so interface does not have any definitions, only declarations. All right. However, they can have their types as well. Let's suppose name is going to be of type string, like this. My get info is going to return void. It is not going to return anything. Then you can write like this. Okay. Now, what is going to happen with the interface? What you can do? A class can implement an interface. Okay. Just like in inheritance, what we were doing, right? This bike was extending vehicle, right? So what is the meaning of extending? Extending means taking their existing state and maybe modifying it or adding something to it and then utilizing it. Okay, like here, what we were doing when we inherited vehicle class, right? We inherited their properties, name and model, right? So we got name and model in our bike class. Then what we did? We added one more function to this bike class, which basically provide us the information of vehicle, right? So what we were doing, we were extending it, right? We are extending the existing behavior. Okay, we are basically adding something to it, right? What happens in interface? Interface does not have any initial state, right? Name is not having any value, get info is not having any definition, right? So what you do, you implement an interface, right? So how you implement an interface? A class, let's suppose I say I give it a name as concrete class. What it does, it implements a interface like this. Okay, now when a class implements an interface, it has to give definition to all of its properties. Remember this thing, whenever a class implements an interface, it has to implement all of its properties. So you can see at line number 66, it is giving me an error because just read the error very carefully. It says class concrete class, which is name of the class, incorrectly implements interface, which is the interface name, right? Property name is missing in type concrete class, right? Since name is missing, so what it has to do? It has to implement name. So that means it has to give one name to this. Let's suppose it gives a some name to this. Okay, like this. Still it is giving an error because it says property get info is missing, right? There was another property in this interface other than name, which is get info, right? Get info is a function, right? It has braces. So you have to implement that function as well. Like this. Okay. Here you can print some name, maybe console.log. Name is called, maybe name is something, whatever, like this. Okay. So whenever a class implements an interface, it has to implement all its properties. Simple. You cannot ignore even one single property. All right. However, you can add some more properties to it. Let's suppose you want to add another function called as get name. You can anyways do that. Okay, like this. Okay, so here you can anyways print the name. Let's suppose I want to print this dot name. I can anyways do that. Okay, so that means a concrete class can have its own functions, no problem, but it has to implement all the functions of an interface as well. Okay, so I think Sojanya, I have answered your question at line number 72. This is how you can print it. Okay, yeah. All right. So is it somewhat like polymorphism? No, it is not polymorphism. It is implementing an interface. Interface is a completely different concept, totally different. Okay, one interface can be implemented by as many classes.
Also, can a class extend from one class and implement from another interface at a time?
Yeah, it can.
So now we can write class concrete class extends vehicle implements interface name, right?
It should be. So let me write it.
Okay.
Extends vehicle and implements interface. Right. It is not giving any error. That means it can. Okay. Since we are just extending it, we need not to do anything else. Okay. So that is why it is working perfectly fine as of now as well. Okay. Yeah. So the same concept was present in Java as well. Implementing an interface and extending a class. All right. So this was the interface. Okay. So where are interfaces useful? Interfaces are useful where you are having one very generic set of properties in an interface, and you let their definition to be given by the user who is going to use your interface. Okay, let's suppose I create an interface called as maybe what interface I can create. I can create a vehicle interface. Okay, and this vehicle interface can have some tires, right? Because any vehicle is going to have tires, right? Then it can have another properties, maybe speed, right? It can have some property called a speed. Any vehicle is going can have speed, right? So this is something which is we create as interface, right? Tomorrow when you will create a class called as car, right, that can directly implement vehicle interface, right, like this. And you can also create another class, maybe bike, which can directly implement vehicle, and it can give its own definition, right? Now car, we can have it can have tires as 4, right? Bike can give its definition like tires as 2. Okay, so this is where interface is useful. All right, so this is from the classes and interfaces. Now we have the next concept, which is the last concept for today, that is generics. All right, so generics are also important. So what is the meaning of generics? So generics means you are creating a class which can accept different types of values. Okay, so I'll show you an example for this. I'm having example. Okay, here. All right. Yeah. So just don't bother about this. Let's remove this. Okay. So how you make a generic class? Okay. So if I show you here, which class will I show you? Okay. So what I do, I again write a class. All right. And then I just remove this and I just remove this as well. Okay. Why is it giving an error? Because it is duplicate. Okay. I remove this. All right. So what is it? From line number 12 to line number 16. And I have to mention something like here as well, string, right? So what is this from line number 12 to line number 16? Can anyone give a technical answer? What is it? A class with constructor in it. Correct. That is, I will say 60%. Can you go one step ahead? A class which takes only string. It's not the class, it is actually the constructor which takes the only string. However, you are going in right direction, Sanjay. We are talking about string only here. All right, cool. I tell you. So what it is a class which is having a constructor which accepts only one parameter, and that is going to be a string, right? So what I have done, I have created a ABC class, right? And whenever you are going to create an object of this class ABC, right? You are going to create a class object of this ABC, right? Then what you have a restriction that you can only pass a string value inside this constructor function. While creating an object of ABC, you can only pass a string value, right? Now, if I take you to our previous examples which we have done today, right? Line number 9. Just have a look at this very closely. And I do one more thing. I say let employee IDs a type array, and it is a number. Let's suppose 1, 2, right? So what is happening at line number 9 and line number 10? This is related to generics only. The same conversation which we are having here, right? A parameter which takes string, right? So you can see what is happening at line number 9 and line number 10. Can anybody explain me?
It's declaring an array and assigning values to them.
Yeah, it's there, but what is one thing you have to notice in these two lines? Okay, I got 2, 3 answers, but I'm not getting the exact answer which I'm looking for. You guys are partially correct. Okay, I tell you. So just have a look at creation of object at line number 18 here, right? How have you created this? You have created this object by writing new ABC and passing a type to it, right? Now, what we are doing here, we are telling that employees is going to be of type array, right? Both will be array only, right? But what we have done here, in first, that means at line number 9, we are telling that I am going to create an array of string, right? And then suddenly at line number 10, I am telling I am going to create an array of number, right? So how is it possible? What is array? Array is nothing but a class only itself, right? Array is going to be a class. Okay. So this array, right? It is written in such a way that it's able to access any type of parameter, right? So that is called as generics. Okay. All right. So you got the concept that you allow it to the user that what type of value they want to pass to it, right? Not like our this class, right? It has restricted the user to create a object by passing only a string, right? That is called as the concept of generics. That means you make your class a generic class which can accept any type of parameter. Okay, so that is what it was written earlier. If I just do like this, okay, so how you create a generic class? You write a, so this was the class syntax, right? Class ABC and then their definition, right? Only thing we have added is this angular brackets and a t variable here. So this t you can take anything, right? So people generally take t as it is given in most of the books. Okay, this t can be p, q, whatever you want, whatever the name you want. Okay, and then this constructor, while creating a constructor, we have to tell its type, right? Earlier we have mentioned it as string, right? But now we will tell that whatever type is going to be coming. Okay, so t denotes basically the type. Okay, so that is why people all generally use t. All right. So when we write these angular brackets here, and then in the constructor we tell the parameter is going to be of type t, right? And this type t will be decided at the runtime. Okay. Then how will you call this? Or how will you create the objects from this? You will be creating objects like this. Earlier we have written something like where obj equals new of abc and then passing a string here, right?
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah,
Here class name ABC followed by angular braces with the T letter is there, right?
yeah.
Type variable, is it respective only to the constructor of the class, or will it be related to the function parameters also, which we define inside the class?
No, it will be related only for the constructor,
Only for the constructor. Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me remove this. Yeah. So we were doing like this, new ABC of new like this. Now your class is generic. It is ready to accept any type of parameter, right? By using the generic syntax, right? So how will you write it? You will write it like this, where object name equals new ABC, and then in these angular brackets, you pass the type. Okay. So our ABC class is ready to accept a string. So you pass a string to the function, right? Then you are ready to pass a number and pass a number. Our class is ready to accept a number like this. Okay, so this is called as the concept of generics in TypeScript. Okay, so this concept is already there in Java as well. If you guys or anyone from you is from Java background, you must be knowing about the generics. Okay, so this line looks very similar to array, right? Which you have written here. These employees are going to be of type array, and it is going to be a string array. Then it is going to be a number array, right? Just think, if the people of writing ECMAScript or writing JavaScript or TypeScript, they would have not made this class generic, this array as generic, then what would have happened? They would end up writing a huge line of code, right? We will be writing a huge line of code to make it a number or a string or whatever. Let's suppose they restricted it to only number. Then nobody was able to create a string array, right? That is why you create the classes as generic, right? It totally depends on their use case as well. Arrays can be generic. You cannot create a string class which can accept anything, right? A string cannot accept a number. Okay, so string class has to be concrete, but array class, array which can take any type of argument, has to be generic. Okay, so this concept of generic is very important, and it's really good concept using which you can make your code very generic, right? Just like this class ABC, right, which is accepting any type of parameter. Now you just have to mention, you have to just tell by passing in angular bracket that now I am going to create an object of ABC, and I am going to pass a string parameter. Then you are telling that I am going to pass a number, please accept number. Okay, so this is really good concept of generics in TypeScript as well. Okay, earlier it was not there, right? But now it has come up in TypeScript as well. Earlier it was in Java, it was in other languages. It is not there in JavaScript. No, it's not there in JavaScript. It's there in TypeScript now. Okay, so you are seeing that our TypeScript is becoming very similar to Java. They have imported, or they have incorporated lot of Java related stuff here as well, right? Yeah, so that concludes our first session on TypeScript, or our fourth session of the course. All right, so what we'll do, we'll meet on Monday, and on Monday we will have second session on TypeScript. All right, yeah, so you guys have any questions of today's session?
So one thing, actually, I'm new to JavaScript. Like I have to study ES6 in little bit detail. So what topics I should be concentrating on?
Don't concentrate much on the other topics which are there. Just concentrate on the topics which I have told you in the session.
Like classes, interfaces, and other stuff like that.
Exactly.
Okay.
So these ECMAScript which I told you, and this TypeScript, whatever we are teaching here, that much is the that is the prerequisite, right? As I already told, that we are doing the prerequisites to start with Angular.
Okay.
Okay. So what you can do is, first thing is, you just go through the tutorial, the recording which we are having in the dashboard, and if you want to learn deeper, or you want to do some practice, then you can search on net as well. You can read there, you can find some articles on those topics which are in little detail.
Basically, what we are going to getting from these tutorials, these are the most important parts which are required in Angular.
Right. Okay.
Right, sir. Thank you.
Are there any reference web links for ECMAScript and TypeScript?
Reference material, I will say that these are new only. So what you can do is, you can go through their official websites itself.
Okay.
Okay, so ECMAScript has its official website, as well as TypeScript has. But you will find like a hell lot of stuff there, because obviously TypeScript is not only for 2 sessions. You can definitely learn TypeScript in 30 sessions. It's that vast, even ECMAScript as well. So what we are doing is we are picking the necessary topics to get started with. Okay.
That's why I asked, because in ECMAScript they are giving like hell of information. Like I just got buzzed, like what is to be studied and what is to be left.
Exactly. So that is what. So what we are doing is we are the picking where the topics which are required to get started. Yeah, other stuff anyways you can learn anytime. So that's not a problem. But these are something which are required pre-hand. Okay. Even like Java is having more than around 6,000 of classes, right? But when you learn Java, you don't go through 6,000 classes, right? You go through only 200 or 300. That is also a very huge number, going through 200 classes or 300 classes, right? But officially there are more than 6,000 classes, right? But you don't learn all. You can't. It's not practically possible as well, right? So we only do those which are required, right? Yeah. All right. So any other question from anyone? Or else we can close the session. All right. Then if no question, then I just stop sharing my screen and we'll see you guys on Monday now. All right. Bye. Good night. Have a great weekend.